Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Cosmic Weather Report. Renn Butler. My name is Kyle Buller, again, one of the co-founders here at Psychedelics today. And we also have a special guest here as well, Alex Stein. Welcome.
Hello.
Alex, do you think you could give a little intro of like some of your work and then who you are, and then we'll let Renn take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an archetypal astrologer. You can find me at www.21stcenturyalchemy.com. And my work, focuses on using archetypal astrology as a map to kind of guide us into a transformational process. So whatever kind of psychological and spiritual work you are engaged in, I feel like this is a perfect kind of a key and a map to kind of make our way in. And so with that, I work with my clients with the natal chart, with the transits, and then, work with specific techniques for kind of working with the energies and working with their stories and things like that. So, yeah.
Awesome. He's very brilliant and talented, and has a real feel for archetypal astrology.
Well, thank you.
I highly recommend checking out his writings, his presentations on ANN, our YouTube channel as well, and any classes he does, and also readings from Alex would be great. So
yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Yeah.
All right, Renn, do you want to kick it off and take it
Sure.
away?
Yeah, good to be here. I hope everyone's had rich and exciting and healing sessions this month. And, we're here to encourage you, to give you some roadmaps to make your journeys feel safer, and to help you to understand some of the material that comes up in your sessions. We'll be looking at some of the Saturdays in the month ahead, and you can sort of interpolate between the Saturdays if you're doing sessions during the week. Just want to remind people that this type of astrology, archetypal astrology, is non-fatalistic and non-deterministic. There's a wide range of possible expressions for any planetary combination, and we still have free will. We still have to do the best we can to turn them in the most positive directions. But our relationship with our unconscious, with our own psyche, seems to be one of the most important factors or wild cards that can turn things in a positive direction. We face the negative material in sessions rather than acting it out in our outer lives as much as we can. And that opens the pathway for more positive things to come in to us as well. So yeah, Alex, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot recently. There's this quote from the astrologer Rob Hand that he talks about in his essay, Handling the Malefics, where there's this ancient idea in astrology of the malefics, like these evil planets like Saturn and Mars that cause all these problems in our lives. And I guess we would include a planet like Pluto today with that. And he basically says that the source of this feeling of oppression and difficulty and trial and all the challenge that comes with being ruled by the planets really comes from our resistance to the energies that just want to manifest in some way. And I think that's the power of doing sessions, is that we can overcome that resistance that got in there through whether it's birth trauma or life trauma or past life trauma or whatever, or just plain old conditioning or cultural circumstances. All these things kind of pile on to make us, want to run from this or that energy that simply wants to manifest through our being in some way. And so I see the way that psychedelic sessions and astrology work together is almost like a kind of condensing of life into like into a very potent moment where suddenly like all of that stuff can get blown out, and we can kind of ride those waves that we're meant to ride. And yeah, so that's kind of my take on it there.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, Kyle, any thoughts on that?
No, sounds really good to me.
Yeah, I remember Stan saying once, it says, we can't escape our karma, but we can face it in a more condensed way in sessions. when it's convenient for us, you know, like we say to our psyche, you know, please get off my back all week, but on Saturday, I'm going to give you a chance when you're going to be the boss. I'm getting out of the way. I'm going to lie back and just let whatever's inside come out. And it turns the usual imperatives completely around. Normally we have to, you know, keep it together and, you know, put our best energies out in the world and so on. And that's true. But this gives us a chance to sort of let the inside kind of get turned outward. And, you know, the more negative stuff that comes out, the more opening we're going to have, essentially. So it's an important part of life for sure. Yeah. Okay, well, let me share my screen here. Animated page. And you can see that in large.
We got it. Yep.
Okay, great. So this is the chart for today. And one of the beautiful things that's happening today is we can see the sun here in Leo is in trine with the moon in early Aries, and the moon's also in trine with Mercury. That's 120 degrees. These are wonderfully flowing aspects, kind of a smooth, harmonious, flowing interplay between the masculine and feminine, between the yin and the yang sides within us. And you might be feeling some of that today. There's also, of course, this Mars-Jupiter opposition is almost exact in the sky right now. These tend to support feelings of high energies, adventurous feelings, good time to put our ideals, Jupiter, into action. And yeah, Alex, any thoughts on those?
Yeah, so you know, the Mars Jupiter aspect I was particularly thinking about, because it's such a I kind of think of this as like the cowboy aspect. It's this very kind of gung-ho, super like energetic and charged up. And it's the kind of thing like Jack London, I think, had a trine, and actually Timothy Leary had the trine also. And so there can be this kind of like, you know, just I'm gonna go for it and I'm gonna like tell the world about it kind of an aspect. And so as applies to sessions, it could be the kind of thing like, you know, maybe you don't want to do DMT while bungee jumping in the Amazon. Like maybe try to, you know, keep that to home. And then also like, you know, we can have like just amazing kind of energy put toward like expanding our vision, and then feeling like we've got this like huge aha that we then like want to come back with and like show to the world. That's something that I could see happening with this aspect. And then yeah, that moon trine, that moon trine sun, you know, that it's always great when the moon and the sun are working nicely together, because this is, yeah, like Renn said, balancing the two sides of our nature, the masculine and feminine, the you know, our awareness and our feelings, which is maybe the ultimate thing that we want to be able to do in life. And the ultimate you know, purpose of healing is to be able to kind of align the way we feel with the way we wish to be or want to act in the world. So yeah.
Yeah, good points. Yeah, kind of like the sacred marriage of the feminine and masculine. So I hope you're all enjoying that feeling today, though I guess this will be retroactive back to today, which is Wednesday, July 28th. Okay, let's look at July 31st. This is a beautiful program, Solar Fire, and you can advance it by 1 day at a time. And so here we are up to this coming Saturday. So the Venus-Mars conjunction here is still definitely in opposition with Jupiter. Mars-Jupiter's very close at this point. And these are wonderful transits for dancing, for socializing in a dynamic way. You know, I've discovered something in Victoria. There are outside dances, and the one I'm enjoying the most right now is at Willows Beach. You go there and it's a sliding scale admission. She gives everybody headphones and you dance outside on the beach under the moonlight, or also during the day. She has them twice a week with friends, and, you know, free dance. It's world music. And this is a wonderful way to integrate sessions. And I've always thought dancing was kind of underrepresented at breathwork groups. It's a great thing to do at the end. There's a grand, ennobling, uplifting, exalting feeling from Jupiter, and acting on Venus, you know, the Aphrodite archetype, our feelings of love, our connection with our friends and loved ones, and also on Mars, the urge to take action, our feelings of physical energy and irrepressibility that Alex was talking about. Really love this. So if you're doing sessions anytime now for the next, you know, 10 days, you're going to be feeling these energies. Yeah, Alex?
Yeah, I think too about the Mars Venus. It's a really passionate combination. It makes me think of, like, a line in a book that would go something like, "Her eyes flashed with rage as she said, 'You bastard,' and landed on him with a passionate kiss." Um, it's so that kind of stuff. And in sessions, it can come through as, like, experiencing, like, kind of warrior goddess type energy is one way that it might come through. Similarly, another way that it could come through is as, like, uh the kind of beautiful male warrior type archetype. The combination of kind of intensity and action and beauty and grace. Um, and I think the reason why it's so connected with dance, like Mars is about just plain old physical energy and, like, me, like, the kind of me forward kind of action. And Venus is about beauty and receptivity and we. And so, dancing is the ultimate kind of, it's me and we sort of a thing. So yeah. Yeah. And I think too, it just makes for a good, like, at the end of sessions, as you're kind of coming back into ordinary reality, to have people around, to kind of integrate by dancing, by having a little bit of, like, comfortable socializing. And the Jupiter aspect in there, of course, it's just gonna amp up that sense of good times together and all that can bring. So
Yeah. It's better than going wee all the way home.
yeah.
Yeah. I used to time my mini sessions on days of parties, so that I knew that after my hard work of facing my emotional process, that I would have this fun social event to go to, friends to hug, to sit with, hold hands with, and so on. So it's a beautiful way to time things. Now, we noticed that on Saturday, the 31st, moon is conjunct Uranus in the sky and trining Venus. So Venus and the moon are also in trine. This is a beautiful day. It's like the milk of human kindness, moon Venus. The feminine archetypes are electrified, invigorated, stimulated. We can have a sense that kindness and compassion have an electrifying, healing effect on us during these transits. So you won't be disappointed if you're, doing a session that day. Yeah, Alex, any thoughts?
Yeah, like an image that kind of comes to mind for me with moon Venus Uranus is like the super blooms that happen every once in a while in the desert, just when this barren land suddenly just gets covered with all of this life and all of this color. It's like an incredible sense of renewal. And with the moon, like emotional renewal, a kind of the ultimate kind of rebirth. When we're renewed on the moon level, that's when, like, we are truly renewed, I think. And then with Venus in there, it just brings in more the dimension of beauty and how, beautiful images that come to us, or maybe even just looking at art or listening to the right music can really just trigger a sense of awakening and renewal. So yeah.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, it's exciting just thinking about this energy. I think I'm going to cancel my bungee jumping plans and do a session on that Saturday instead.
Yeah.
Um, Now, the moon Uranus will also be in square with Saturn, and so forming a T square with Sun and Mercury up here. Now, um, the Sun, Mercury, and Moon essentially will all be punctuating this Saturn-Uranus square, 90 degrees between these two planetary archetypes, that is happening for the next several years. It's one of the dominant energies that we're experiencing. We're seeing this in the continuation of the culture wars between really extremist conspiracy theories and polarization between responsible and irresponsible, or between controlling and freedom seeking, and so on. So we certainly will be feeling these archetypes in the first half of July in a fairly strong way, with the moon lighting up the Saturn Uranus on Saturday the 31st. It's not uncommon to feel emotional alternations between being stuck and feeling free, feeling constricted, like you're failing, feeling really bad, and then feeling emancipated, exhilarated, liberated. And it's interesting. It tends to come in a very pronounced, distinct way. You're either stuck or you're free, and it can go back and forth. So if that pattern is something you notice, that really fits these archetypes. Yeah. Alex, any thought?
Yeah. So, generally, the some of the hardest feelings that can come in sessions come through Saturn, right? This is the BPM2 sense of no exit, constriction, contraction, and that sense that all is wrong, or that you're dying, or that something irreparable has occurred and you'll never be the same in a bad way. That's the kind of thing that you can experience with Saturn. And like Renn said, you can have this it's this one or it's that one, and there's very little transition between the two. But what I've found is that when if you're feeling that kind of an emotion in a journey, and you just give yourself to it and just let it ride its course, it always clears. And when Uranus is in there, like the way that it might clear is very kind of it's just big. It's big and sudden, and just suddenly you're free. And I just want to share an image that came to me in one of my mini sessions in the last few months with this operating. And it was an image of mountains that were over me, weighing me down, that suddenly started, like the rocks started shearing off, and all these rocks were falling. And then just like all these cartoon characters came ripping out of the side of the mountain on train tracks and went, woo, all around. And I suddenly felt free, and it was like, oh, okay. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Uranus is ultimately a stronger archetype. Suffering and, mortality and fear and boundaries are subsets within the larger cosmic wholeness. The generic state of consciousness seems to be one of peace, of unity. And so there's a finite amount of Saturn's pain. And it's really beneficial for us to feel it and surrender to it in sessions. The quickest way through a difficult material is to surrender to it right at the time. So yeah, very good points.
Yeah.
Now,
Could I add just one more thing about it? So
yeah.
Because of the nature of Saturn Uranus, Saturn always wants something, or this energy always needs to be reckoned with in some way. And it really highlights the importance, not that it's not always important set and setting, but it really highlights the importance of a safe container, that we get more freedom with Saturn Uranus when we are able to limit ourselves in just the right way. That's kind of the metaphor that I like to use, is how artists sitting down to create something, if they sit in front of the blank page, they might clam up, they might not know what to do. But as soon as they start, putting ink on the page or whatever, they naturally start limiting themselves, and then suddenly creativity can happen. And some artists go so far as to like kind of preload themselves with a set of limitations that then starts the creative process. And I feel like this aspect highlights that. And so thinking about those ways in which creative limitations can help you, and how that applies to sessions and beyond, I think is worth thinking about.
Yeah, certainly. And as always, if you're doing stronger dosages, have a sitter there. It's worth it. It's hard to work through the trust issues that we all have to deal with, but that is the cutting edge of healing. It's a very important part of it. You set up, I think I talked about this last time, you set up your Cape Canaveral, and you've got to have people that are, manning, womaning the control tower and so on. And you get everything set up. That's the Saturn preparation. And then you have total freedom to let your consciousness go wherever it wants to go. So yeah, it's responsible freedom. One way to see that. So the influence of Mercury involved in this T-square, which is operative not only on that Saturday, but it's happening right now and will be for the kind of the first 10 days at least of August, is the Mercury-Saturn opposition can sometimes inflect sessions toward negative thinking, pessimistic thinking. You might notice that you're seeing the glass of life as half empty. There can be repetitive negative tape loops. This is something that Rick Tarnas observed in people. And if you're sitting for someone in that situation, just let them go through it. They just have to have a certain amount of that anxiety, and then it will automatically break. And then, the influence of Uranus is, as Alex said, there will be this dramatic sort of kicking out into a completely different transcendent view of things. Often you feel like you've risen above the situation. So the conditions in which the prison were in effect no longer apply. You're just sort of in a completely different level. And Mercury Uranus can bring elements of cosmic humor. There can be like liberating surprise. People can be depressed and they might be talking and it's all doom and gloom, and that's important to go through that, and then suddenly they start laughing and it all just becomes a joke. So that's a very exciting moment in a session. Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, there can also be like with thinking about Mercury in there, and also the moon acting with these planets, there can be a lot of like mental and physical tension and jitters, and kind of just so the mental tape loops, but also kind of physical tension and jitters, and like the need to kind of move your fingers around and talk gibberish, and even even let your mind kind of devolve into nonsense sounds like boing boing choo choo, or strings of random syllables and things like that.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, the very sort of chaotic, spontaneous expression can be very beneficial. Yeah. Shall we look at August 7th?
Sure.
Okay, I'll just advance this one day at a time. You see the moon moving there. And here we go with August 7th. So we see that this is a new moon. It's today, it's that day, and also on the Sunday. New moons tend to coincide with a bit lower energy for sessions, kind of an abridged feeling at times. They're not negative influences, but you sometimes don't feel like you get your money's worth. It's just a little bit more of a blah, kind of ended, and that's all there is kind of feeling. Other transits can offset that, of course. Now, Saturn will be strongly involved in this new moon. So basically, both the sun and the moon will be in opposition with Saturn, and the sun Saturn will be happening for the first 10 days in July, or in August rather. So, this is a good time to face pain, to zero in on wounds, and for veteran journeyers, they will welcome these energies because it helps them to get serious and just focus in and stay with the more dense and compressed material. But if you're a first-time journeyer, or you're a sitter working with depressed or paranoid client, I personally, if you have a choice, that's not the ideal transit for a first-time session, for people in that category. For a healthy person, no problem. Uranus will also be part of this new moon. So, after a certain amount of suffering, as we've been talking about, people will tend to break free and feel like it was very beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's nothing I want to add about that. I think you said it all on that. Yeah. But well, I did want to actually talk about the Mercury Jupiter. So yeah, Mercury Jupiter can be a really positive influence, like a big kind of aha moments where you suddenly see things in a new way. So obviously that's one of the gifts that psychedelics give, is just my limited, oh, is my mic on? Oh, yeah, my limited perspective suddenly opens up to this huge vista. And because Jupiter is about the expansiveness, it's about putting it all together, it's about broad vision, philosophy, and Mercury is what we're actually able to perceive. It could also make us very verbose and kind of lying there pontificating about the visions that we're getting, and things like that. So yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, well said. I can just see people doing that. You get the feeling like, oh no, I got to write this down. My rock opera is being born. I have to capture this. The feeling of far-sighted vision, grand insights. Alex really nailed that one. Yeah. Now so this will be like the first half of August will be the Mercury Jupiter that we were just talking about. Now, Venus opposition Neptune, so for the first half of August as well. Neptune represents our spiritual yearnings, our urges to merge with the divine, to reach states of unity, to blend in and be absorbed into the being of the cosmic consciousness. This is essentially the goal of psychotherapy, is to reach these states of unity, or what Groff calls melted ecstasy, or oceanic ecstasy. Venus adds an element of love and beauty and friendship. We can have devotional feelings. We could have images of beautiful goddesses and feel a sense of devotion to them, yearning to them, and it be very exquisite, magical, enchanting feelings.
Yeah, Venus Neptune. I mean, that's like maybe one of my top three aspects. I think. I mean, it's just like the beautiful dimensions of Venus Neptune. And nothing beats it. It's like the elves in the Lord of the Rings. It's like Enya. It's just like just magic, like mystical, fairy realm kind of stuff. And it's a beautiful one for like lush music and poetic imagery, and natural imagery, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, you can really be transported aesthetically into other realms, other dimensions, and also, yeah, like encounters with goddesses and goddess-like energies, definitely possible.
Yeah, and we hope that happens, and we wish you the very best with
Yeah.
your sessions. Now, if you have a choice on that weekend between August 7th and August 8th, I personally would maybe go with the 8th. The moon will be a little bit, the moon Saturn will be a little bit weaker, and you'll be into moon opposition Jupiter on the Sunday. So, it's fine tuning, but if they work as well for you, it's a little more expansive on the Sunday. So we look at August 14th. Okay, here we notice that the Sun-Saturn opposition is in its final days. It's definitely waning. It's much less strong, and not only that, but the Sun has begun to form an opposition with Jupiter from about the 8th or early, a little bit earlier than the 8th. It starts, but then it starts to get really strong around the middle of the month and for the rest of the month, essentially. So this is very exuberant energy. It's enthusiastic, feelings of joy, joie de vivre. We can, at the end of a session, when we take off our eye shades and headphones, and if we go outside, nature can just seem so grand. Sunlight can feel ennobling and uplifting. And I would say that in general, the second half of August will feel a little more expansive and joyous for many people than the first half. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so, because then because that Sun Jupiter, and then there's going to be Moon Jupiter opposite Sun Jupiter, I think, the next week. And I'm it's very nice to have those Jupiter aspects, because whatever Saturn might be doing, whatever hard contracting kind of energies we need to deal with, if we have that sense of like open vision and aha, and that radiant sunlight, and the sun on the leaves, and the leaves jiggling outside the window, and just like the whole thing, it can feel so like the world is smiling. It can feel like existence is a big smile, or this feeling like finally I have arrived. A thing to caution against with the Jupiter Sun, big Jupiter things, is a feeling of like, it's like, well, that's it, I've cracked it, it's done, I'm done, game over, I won. That's something that can come sometimes with Jupiter, so you gotta watch out for that sort of thing, but it's still, on the whole, is positive and beautiful, and I like it.
Yeah, and it's especially worrisome when it's an hour and a half into the session.
Yeah.
People feel like they're done. You just have to let them be Buddha for a little while before the anxiety sort of sets in again, and they realize they're not done. So to have those grand moments. I want to just say one other thing about this Venus Neptune. So essentially the first 3 weeks of August, Venus opposition Neptune, we talked about the positive side, the devotional feelings and magical, loving feelings. These energies can also lend themselves to kind of blurring of social boundaries. Now, this is a good thing. If you're at a dance, you're at a party, you want to feel a sense of fusion and union with people, with nature. It can be ecstatic. But in terms of sitting and journeying, it's very important to keep the professional protocols in place, and not sort of fudge those. Remember that it's better to have a sitter who you have no sexual involvement with. There's no sexual ambiguity. The best sitters are in relationships, so their needs are met, and any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, that's all good. That's all spot on. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's look at August 21st. And this is really fun. Kyle, if you want to jump in at all at any point, feel free. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Saturday, August 21st. Alex talked about this. Now here we've got a full moon here, both on Saturday and Sunday. I mean, these are 3-day events. And instead of Saturn, like we had in the new moon, now it's Jupiter involved in this new moon. This is an unusually grand and warm and joyous, expansive period. The Sun opposition Jupiter for the second half of the month that we talked about is going to add that feeling of joy and exuberance for the entire period. But here we have a punctuated weekend with the moon involved. This is really wonderful, and I hope those of you who have a chance to do sessions, you'll certainly notice this. Now, there's a kind of a spectacular quality with this. This is the kind of moment when at the end of a session, you go outside and your sitters maybe, lead you out there, and then you get to see the moon coming up over the horizon, that grand orange orb of, radiance. And, this is, what it's like in a psychedelic state or holotropic state. It's a vision you will never forget. One of the grandest things that you'll ever see. In general, it will tend to get feel more expansive as the day progresses on Saturday, because you're still in a Moon-Saturn conjunction for the first part of the day. And then the moon will get closer and closer to Jupiter. So that's a really nice trajectory in sessions. You do your suffering at the beginning, and then comes the great reward.
Yeah, I think of this aspect, this alignment of these three as like the heart opener. This is the cosmic heart opener. It's just like, it's going to do the job. You will, especially coming out of that, the more Saturnian suffering dimensions at the beginning of the day, and just gradually moving on into that, warm and joyful and exuberant and, accepting of everything and open to everything kind of a feeling. It's really excellent. I'd say also, Moon Jupiter, the moon's really connected with like nourishment, and Jupiter is so big and grand. Like, definitely, like, have a nice meal at the end of the day, with lots of, as many close friends as, you feel comfortable having around. Yeah.
Stan has a beautiful description in LSD psychotherapy of the psychedelic dinner, as he describes it. And he talks about beautiful, colorful food from many different cultures. And, this sort of sumptuous, luxurious repas that Alex is talking about, and potluck with friends. I like to call it like a potluck rebirthday feast. Can be just a wonderful way to integrate your positive feelings into the real world, to take them into your actual life. And, it's a win-win thing. People usually love to be at those kind of events, sort of honoring the one journeyer who did their session that day. It's a very special moment. We can also have an unusual sense of kinship with plants, with flowers, with the earth and land, with the sun and the moon, and actually on Saturday, it might be possible to see the sun and moon at the same time, right at a certain brief moment. If you don't have really high trees, you can see them both. That's pretty amazing. Connections with animals too, this sort of Mother Nature Gaia energy during those transits. Now, we will also have Mars trine Uranus and Mercury trine Uranus. This kind of helps to pop the lid off. It helps energies to flow out in a kind of explosive breakthrough way, which is just exactly what you want to have happen in sessions. And then finally, the Mercury Mars will be in opposition with Neptune. Mars, Neptune, yeah, just sort of beginning its major strength at that point. Now, communications can be a little bit confusing sometimes under these energies. It's good for stream of consciousness writing and thinking. There can be a flow of imagery. Neptune dissolves the boundaries, so we receive images and insights from our psyche in a more sort of unimpeded way. However, these archetypes sort of remind us of the importance of wearing eye shades and headphones in sessions. So the flow of communication ideally is one way. So the sitter or the journeyer can babble, can share, they can, it's like C.S. Lewis energy, nonsense verse. They can talk away, but they may not be able to process things that are said to them. So don't ask a client, are you okay, or something like that, because that's a very hard question to answer at certain points. Try to avoid the temptation to write down your insights. These are the classic archetypes of feeling like you've got to write something down, and then the next morning you just look at it, it's just gobbledygook. Let it be a therapy session, and then your own inner editor will edit the wheat from the chaff, and the next day, if there's something that should be written down, you'll remember it.
Well, one thing about the Mars, Mercury, Neptune in there, you can be very susceptible, I think, with that combination to any kind of negative influence, any negative messaging or something. So it just kind of underscores that what you said, Renn, about let the communication be one way, because things can get in there and you don't know what's going to kind of lodge in the mind. And Mars can have that kind of rupturing, puncturing kind of quality to it. And Neptune with the kind of confused and the subtle aspect of things. But another dimension of this, Mercury, Neptune, really like grasping something about archetypes or symbols or metaphors in like a big kind of grand sense is something that you can get with this. Also, like seeing patterns or like sacred geometries or things like that is another thing that might come up, because Mercury is the mind and the kind of inner map maker, and Neptune, of course, is the transcendent and the archetypal and all of that. And then Mars in there can add a kind of adventurous dimension to it. It's almost like trips to outer space kind of a thing. I could imagine going on with that. Oh, and another dimension with Mars, Mercury, and also the Uranus Mars, Mercury. Yelling. There might be a need to just kind of yell and just express through the vocal cords loudly.
Yeah, so, good point there. Yeah, good reminder. Yeah, Mercury Mars tends to increase the decibel level of expression, and this is a point that Stan emphasizes, that full expression is a good thing. And if somebody gets into like raging feelings, let them go for as many hours as that wants to come up. You never say to a client, that's enough now, you should have a different feeling or something like that. If that vein is something that is open, then let it go. Let them go into that vein. I mean, like seam of metal kind of metaphor there. So full yelling, screaming, crying at high volumes, that's why a soundproof room is advisable. And it's, of course, one of the reasons why the deepest sessions can really only happen when you're the only journeyer in the room. Then the sitters can just focus on you, give you their full attention. They're not kind of supporting like the lowest common denominator of supporting everybody, and like we're gonna have to nip that because that's too dramatic. You really want to just go with whatever comes up. And what Alex was saying about being confused by things you might hear when you're under the influence. Yeah, like the slightest little, like you might hear a cough from your sitters and you think, oh no, they're impatient or something like that. Projections are very common, and it's just automatic that we project. We start usually by projecting, and then the material kind of breaks through, and then we fully feel it, and then the projection disappears, right? But at the beginning, you start to think, oh no, they're not going to be able to handle this. But it's really we that are afraid of handling it. So if sitters need to communicate with the journeyers, it's better to make short, clear, unambiguous statements. Like if they ask for support, things like, you're doing great, we're here for you, we won't abandon you, you're very close to a breakthrough, just stay with it, things like that. So yeah. Shall we look at the final Saturday?
Yeah,
Sure.
let's do it.
August 28th. Alex, do you want to?
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Well, one of the things in here, obviously the Uranus moon that day, which, later in the day, the moon's going to be getting further from it, and earlier in the day, it'll be closer. But like we've already mentioned, that's that, that total sense of like emotional rebirth. And like when that happens on the lunar level, that's really like number one. I think that's, when you heal on the moon level, the moon is the healer, really. It's like the healing symbol in astrology. And when the moon gets right, suddenly all gets right, because we feel good again. So that's a really positive thing on that day. Something else that's a very different energy to that, we've got this the trine of Mercury Pluto. Now, Mercury is the mind, and Pluto is depth, right? It's depth, it's shadow, it's the instincts, it's all of the kind of intensity and power and horror and all that kind of stuff. So Mercury Pluto is very much like it wants to dig under the surface of things and see, the hidden truth in things. And so the mind can take very it's a trine, so it's not as challenging as like as like a square or opposition or conjunction or something, but still it can inflect the mind to kind of dark places and suspicious thought, and it's kind of a detective like energy. And so just know that that's going on there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that moon Uranus square Jupiter. That looks really wonderful to me. Yeah, feelings of emotional breakthrough, rebirth, wide extremes of emotion that sort of lead automatically to positive resolutions. And again, that moon square Jupiter in the sky, we'll be having that pretty much every Saturday and Sunday for the month, right? The moon is moving quarter of the way around the sky every week. So kind of a grand sense of nature's fullness, nature's bounty, the sort of human warmth and kindness. Yeah. Let's see, I will. Yeah. So lots to look forward to. And I hope that over the next 10 days that you get a chance to do some dancing. If you haven't been dancing during the pandemic, doing it outside is certainly a more safe way to do it. And these new dances with headphones are really, really fun.
I got to dance a little bit last Saturday and it felt so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been doing my fair share of dancing. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see those hearings happen. Finally, the January 6th hearings finally starting. It's pretty riveting. I'm finding that to be very emotional and fascinating. it sure makes you appreciate the reasonable members of society, you know, the ones who tell the truth and have integrity. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Anything that you guys want to close with for today? Any final thoughts? I guess we'll start with you, Alex.
No, I don't think I've really got anything to say that I haven't already said. You know, only that I'm just really honored to be here. You know, I think it's great that you're doing this. I think that you know, astrology, when we use it this way, and it isn't like some system of pigeonholing or making excuses or just labeling people and putting them into boxes, it changes so much. I mean, it can change everything. And when I started to see, you know, kind of firsthand how it worked with inner journeys, like I was just totally sold on it. And like, so yeah, it's exciting to be able to share this with more people, you know. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And how about you, Renn?
yeah, thank you. It's been an honor, and Alex, you did a wonderful job. We've been talking about the world transits, which are about half of the influences on people at a given time. I would say these are the ones that we all share. These are active in the collective consciousness. The other half of the influences would be your own personal transits. And, I highly recommend, as I said, getting a reading from Alex or myself or any other archetypal astrologers or astrologers in general that you like. I'm offering a course starting at the end of September on archetypal and holotropic astrology online, 21-week course, and it would be great to have you there. It's a fun online community that develops, and we support each other and celebrate astrology. So, Alex, do you have any offerings coming up?
Well, I've got a class that I'm going to launch sometime in the fall, but I don't have a date on it yet. But
Yeah.
it will be about using astrology to support whatever kind of spiritual journey you're on, and I'll also be offering, certain teachings, certain types of meditation and energy work type of stuff that I do that I integrate with my work. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
That will be excellent as well. And so if you can take them both, I highly recommend.
Yeah. And I have taken one of Renn's classes, and I've got to say it was an amazing experience. I mean, he has done like so much amazing research, just compiling an amazing number of images and clips and musical examples and quotes. And it's just like, you will really get like the tsunami effect of like archetypal astrology. It's awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, and so if this is a little new to you, definitely sign up for those courses.
I was aiming for the fire hydrant during a hot city summer, but yeah, tsunami, that's okay.
No, it's good. It's good. I'm a Plutonian person, so I like tsunamis and
Right on.
And if people want to learn more about some of your other work at the Archetypal News Network, is that correct? They can find you over on YouTube?
Yes.
Awesome.
That's right. Yeah. And I've also, I participate with ANN as well. And I've also got my own station as well, where I go into more of the other work that I add to the astrology. So that's a 21st century alchemy, if you just look for that. So, yeah.
All right, Alex, Renn, thank you so much. I know this is really helpful for me as I start to, do more counseling sessions with people and trying to look for some of these, archetypal themes that pop up. So yeah, I've already kind of started to integrate some of this into my practice and see what's popping up in sessions. So I'm just appreciative of all your work here. And again, as a reminder to those that are watching, make sure you subscribe to the Psychedelics Today channel, and then this will be under our playlist for the Cosmic Weather channel. So make sure you get updated when this comes out. So yeah, thank you everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, good luck everybody.
Bye.